How do two of the best smartphone cameras compare? Let's take some photos on the iPhone 17 Pro Max and the Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra and see how they stack up. If I had to choose any two phones to take pictures with, you really can't go wrong with the iPhone 17 Pro Max or the Galaxy S26 Ultra. These things are loaded with the most high-end cameras that can handle everything from low light to bright light and everything in between, and I'm sure glad because they are not cheap. The iPhone 17 Pro Max starts at $1,199, while the Galaxy S26 Ultra starts at $1,300. Let's start with a quick camera spec rundown. The iPhone 17 Pro Max has a triple 48 megapixel rear camera system with a wide angle, ultra wide, and telephoto lens. The selfie camera is 18 megapixels. The Galaxy S26 Ultra has a 200 megapixel wide angle, 50 megapixel ultra wide angle, 10 megapixel 3x telephoto camera, and a 50 megapixel 5x telephoto camera. It's also got a 12 megapixel selfie camera. Of course, specs don't tell the whole story, so let's dive into some photos. First up, these two pictures are a great way to compare what each phone does best. Even though these were taken right around 2 p.m. on a sunny day, the Galaxy S26 Ultra adds some nice even brightness throughout. That lighting is consistent, so there are no looming harsh shadows anywhere. And the iPhone's strength is that it brings richness and a little more pigmentation throughout the lamp, bricks, and wisteria. You'll notice a little more detail in the metalwork, but it's a relatively slight difference. Ultimately, I prefer the brighter, more even lighting of the S26 Ultra image, which just pops a little bit more. Now, these next two photos are pretty similar, so lock in with me here to explore the differences. Because the S26 Ultra photo is a little brighter, some of those flower petals get washed out and we lose some of that detail, while the iPhone image does a better job preserving the individual petals so they don't mesh together as much and we get a little more definition. And with these being portrait shots, you'll see how each phone handles focus. So in the bottom right of the S26 Ultra image, you'll notice the yellow flowers start to blur a little bit more than they do on the iPhone photo. And because the iPhone does a better job of keeping more of the foreground in focus here, it's also easier to spot the little bird in the corner. So the iPhone 17 Pro Max takes the prize here. Next up is another set of portrait shots in a wood-paneled library, and you can see the richness in each image. If you look at the iPhone photo, you'll spot more detail in the desk's grain and carvings, and also in the white flower vase. Notice how the painted blue flowers pop a little bit more on there, and it's easier to see the design on the books laying on the desk. If you look towards the back of the iPhone photo, the desk lamp has a more consistent and controlled glow that doesn't look as washed out as it does on the S26 Ultra, and the radio on the table next to it is also a little easier to make out. So I'm gonna go with the iPhone here. Here's an example where you kind of have to make a trade-off. The S26 Ultra photo is again brighter throughout. You really see that in the flowers and the picture frame on the end table, but the price you pay is that the garden outside the window looks a little more washed out as the sun beams through. But the iPhone preserves more of that detail outside at the cost of having some harsher shadows indoors. This one definitely comes down to preference, but I would personally pick the S26 Ultra here because what's inside the room matters more. This is probably the hardest toss-up in this comparison. I think both these photos are satisfyingly crisp and well lit. There's a nice glow around the candelabra in both, and you can clearly make out the patterns in the fabrics. Again, the S26 Ultra photo is a little brighter, but there's a bit more richness in the iPhone image. So I'm actually gonna call this one a tie. Let's give each phone its due credit. While I'm out here on a rare sunny day in San Francisco with no fog, let's take a photo of the Golden Gate Bridge, because how could I resist? I really like how well lit the S26 Ultra photo is. You see the bird's face, doesn't have any harsh shadows, whereas the lighting on the iPhone photo, there are some little harsh pockets there. So I'm gonna award this one to the S26 Ultra. Let's take a step back and look at the ultra-wide photos on each camera. The iPhone can pan out to 0.5x zoom, while the S26 Ultra has 0.6x zoom. And you can hardly tell the difference. Neither photo has a weirdly warped fisheye effect, and you can get pretty much the same sweeping landscape shots with either phone. So again, a point for each. Now let's go to the other extreme and punch in as much as we can with optical zoom. This is an 8x photo taken with the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and here's that same shot using the 10x zoom on the S26 Ultra. Now beyond the varying zoom levels, you'll see very clear lighting differences between these two shots, and I personally like how much brighter and more detailed the S26 Ultra one is. You can see the bird's feathers more clearly and the grass is less shadowy, so props to Samsung. Let's throw a selfie in here. Comparing selfies on an iPhone versus a Galaxy phone is always interesting because of how they each handle skin tones and lighting. You'll notice I have a paler complexion in the S26 Ultra photo and everything is a little bit brighter, while the iPhone adds some warmth and also a more flattering, smoothing effect to my face. In general, selfies are a toss-up between these two phones, and I usually like how bright Samsung's front-facing photos are, but in this case, I prefer how true to life the colors are in the iPhone image. And last but not least, here's a nighttime shot of some cats that were probably wondering why I was disrupting loaf time. The one on the right does not look thrilled to have a visitor, but you'll notice that the iPhone preserves more detail in the cat fur and the fence's wood grain, plus the string lights have a more contained glow for an overall sharper look. So the iPhone is my pick here. I really enjoyed snapping photos on both of these phones, and comparing photos really just involves being super nitpicky, and it comes down to personal preference. So I want to know what you think. Which photos did you like more? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe for more on all things mobile. Thanks for watching.